you will also find that where there is a lot of Freemasonry, there tends to also be a lot of SRA, because Freemasonry is a very close aid to the Satanists. The Satanists have basically dominated Freemasonry for many years, and the Satanists use Freemasonry as a form of spreading their influence within the country, and using that influence in some cases to cover up their crimes. In Freemasonry, a lot of the members are not aware of the fact that the so-called God of Freemasonry is actually the devil. But only the higher level of the Freemasons know this. For the lower level, they innocently think that they're just in a social club, which has a lot of rituals, but they don't really think about what's behind those rituals. And they think it's just a social club. Maybe it'll help them become more influential and meet the right people who can help them in their careers. But the reality of Freemasonry is that it is a form of devil worship, but usually it's only the upper echelons of Freemasonry that are aware of this. So that makes it a very natural assistant to Satanism and SRA. And so one of the earliest cases I took up on SRA in the early 90s, one of the places that the victim, the girl who was being ritually abused, identified was a Masonic lodge that she was taken to be abused. And you get Freemasonry coming up over and over again in many SRA cases. And one of the big problems is that the police in this country, probably more so than the police in most other countries in the world, have a long tradition of joining the Freemasons. A lot of the police believe that if they want to advance in rank and in their police careers, they should join the Freemasons. And this is like a cancer within the police that only corrupts them and makes them more likely to help Satanist cover-ups because they join the Freemasons. The Freemasons is a secret society. Why are police joining a secret society when they're supposed to be serving all members of the public and not just a certain section of the public? Why are they not having to declare their membership of this secret society? Why are they not having to be open about what the secret society they're in does? Why are they allowed all this freedom to have unaccountability regarding their membership in a secret society? It's amazing that this has been going on for years in the British police, but it has, and it continues to do so. And nobody has enforced a rule and put this rule into practice that the police should have to answer for an account for their membership of the Freemasons and answer why they joined the Freemasons in the first place. People in the police ought not to be so free from such scrutiny because basically the Freemasons are a secret society, and that implies very strongly that the Masons have got something to hide. Yes, they may do charity work, but let's not forget the Nazis did charity work. That's always a good disguise to try and show people that you're respectable and you're a good person. The most horrific people do charity work in order to hide things. Of course, there are a lot of sincerely good people who do charity work, but I know of some SRA cases where the Satanist abusers do charity work in order to access children, children's charities. One of the places that Satanists like to target are children's charities. It achieves two things for them. It makes them look good to the public, and it gives them access to children. So I don't buy for a second all this charity work by the Freemasons. It's just a camouflage. It's the kind of camouflage that the Satanists would use because they've got something to hide. So there needs to be a lot more questioning about what the Freemasons are up to, why the police join the Freemasons. Instead, we give them carte blanche to do as they please between the Freemasons and the police. And we need to be dealing with that if we want to try and cut down on the amount of cover-ups that go on in our society. We have an epidemic right now of child sex abuse and of SRA. And the key to dealing with this epidemic, although it's not the only thing that needs to be done, is to bring the people who abuse children and the people who do SRA to justice. And it's so bad now that just 2 years ago, in 2018, in the independent newspaper, there was an article about every 8 minutes on average, a report of child sex abuse is made in England and Wales, every 8 minutes. Wow. Sadly, that was in the independent newspaper 2 years ago. Sadly, the reality is even worse. The reality is that that report did not cover Scotland and Wales. Yeah. Otherwise, the numbers would be even higher. And it'll be less than every 8 minutes that you have a child sex abuse report made to the police. And it did not include the many child sex abuse and SRA reports that are never made. Because as we know, with these kinds of crimes, often the victims don't go to the police. Yeah. So you need to multiply that many times over to get the real figures of what's going on. But every 8 minutes on average, child sex abuse is reported in England and Wales. And it's just increasing. It's escalating, this epidemic, because the government isn't really serious about dealing with the issue. The government goes through some motions to try and show the public, look, we're doing something. But actually, it's only doing cosmetic changes so that things can go on as before, so that it's business as usual. There's a saying, we need to make some changes so that everything can stay the same. Yeah. And that saying applies to this situation because the government, for example, made this big deal about investigating the allegations of one person whose first name was Carl, or he was originally called Nick under his pseudonym, allegations about VIP child sex abuse. Now, my big question is why they singled out one person allegations to investigate allegations of VIP child sex abuse when for many years there have been dozens, if not hundreds, of people saying that they had been sexually abused or subjected to SRA by UK VIPs. They had to reduce it down to one person so they could then discredit that one person and say, oh, well, we did our job, but that person was lying, and therefore we did our job. We found that that person was supposedly lying, and that's the end of that. Nothing to see here. It's just all a fantasy. Yeah. The reality is, of course, that VIP child sex abuse and SRA does go on. The government knew that the public were concerned about this, and so they did this cosmetic exercise, which unfortunately the whistleblower is paying the price for now.
Yeah, definitely.
And they were also sending a message to other whistleblowers. Yeah. Don't whistleblow on the VIP abusers, or you might end up like this fellow. And so what we have here is a typical kind of cosmetic exercise to keep things as they are and to try and discredit the whistleblowing. But they forgot that Edward Heath himself, you could say one of the top VIPs, has been exposed by Operation Conifer, which was done by the Wiltshire Police, and one of the few trustworthy senior police officers left, the Chief Constable Mike Veal. Mike Veal came under huge amount of attack for doing this investigation of Edward Heath's and the allegations against Edward Heath, the former Prime Minister of the UK, for child sex abuse and SRA. But he, to his credit, just kept going, completed the investigation, and published the report, the summary closure report of Operation Conifer, which is on the internet. Anyone can access it and read it, and I encourage you to access it and read it. Pages 59 and 60 of that report clearly state that 6 witnesses said that they were subjected to satanic abuse by Edward Heath. 6 witnesses said they experienced satanic abuse by Edward Heath, the former Prime Minister of the UK. This is on the record by Wiltshire Police. This is on the record on the internet. Anyone can look at it. It cost more than £1 million, the investigation, of taxpayers' money. More than £1 million. And yet, the UK police and the UK government ignored the findings of the report and focused on Carl Beach.
Yeah. So it's a distraction as well.
Yes, it was a distraction from the official findings of Wiltshire Police in an extensive, well-funded investigation. And it was left on the shelf. I mean, the key question to ask the government, if people want to write to the MPs about this, is what are they doing to follow up this report and to try and ensure that no other VIPs are engaging in the kind of child sex abuse and satanic abuse that Edward Heath was exposed as doing in this report? Why has there been no follow-up on this investigation, which clearly indicates that there is a problem with VIPs doing abuse? What you have is the top VIP, the most politically powerful person in this country, the Prime Minister, doing satanic abuse, child sex abuse. If he can be involved in this, any official or lower ranking politician could well be involved in this.
Yeah.
What are we doing to ensure that this doesn't happen again? Yes, we can't get Edward Heath himself, he's long dead, but what are we doing to ensure that there are no more Edward Heaths, there are no more Cyril Smiths? And Cyril Smith, by the way, was also involved in SRA. I know of a couple of SRA survivors who saw him at rituals, because it just keeps repeating itself, this problem. Because the message that is sent by the government and the police to these VIP abusers is, you are protected by us.
Yeah.
You know, we may have to go through the motions a bit, do some cosmetic exercise, maybe even question you, but don't worry, nothing serious is going to happen to you. You're not going to go to jail for this. This isn't going to go very far, and that's it. So, for example, when Jeffrey Dickens gave his dossier on UK VIP child abusers to Leon Britton, who was the Home Secretary at the time, and then Leon Britton, very conveniently for him and his fellow VIP abusers, lost that file, so-called lost that file. Nothing was done to investigate why that file went missing, to hold Leon Britton accountable. Leon Britton himself has been seen by a lot of SRA victims at participating in SRA. So, not surprising at all that the dossier went missing when Leon Britton was the Home Secretary. But he was not held accountable for this, and the government, as usual, just swept it under the carpet.
Yeah, and it happened again, didn't it, with Theresa May? She also had a list of names, and just before she got made the PM, that file went missing as well. There was no investigation into it, and then suddenly she got to be PM after Cameron.
Yes. So we have this recurring pattern of behavior